Good morning po sa lahat ng mga kadete nationwide from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, sa lahat po ng mga respectable deans, lahat po ng mga faculty and staff, mga review lecturers and various review centers, sa lahat po ng mga criminologists, sa mga estudyante po natin, sa lahat din po na nagsi-self-review, yung mga takers natin sa CLA, welcome po again sa Bitcoin, ang platform po sa YouTube na nagbibigay ng libre and comprehensive discussions in all major subjects sa criminology program. I'd like to appreciate po sa nag-avail ng Bitcoin book po natin. Maraming salamat po sa pag-avail. Sa lahat din po ng mga estudyante pa lang or yung magti-take pa lang ng board examination, you can actually give me a personal chat po para makapag-avail po kayo. I tell you, nakataya po ang pangalan ko dito. I tell you mga kadete, yung libro po natin, align po yan sa table of specification. Very vital po in your journey po sa pagpasa ng board examination. Magagamit nyo po yan. Pag estudyante pa po kayo, you can actually use it while nag-prepare po kayo. Do not wait for you to graduate. As long as you are still a student, as early as now, dapat may advanced reading ka na. Sa mga takers po, I tell you, magagamit nyo po ang libro natin in your preparation po sa board examination. So sa lahat po na napag-avail, thank you po. Sa lahat po na hindi pa po nakapag-avail, you can give me a personal chat. Now in this episode mga kadete, i-cover po natin ang dalawang titles. Ang title 4 that includes crimes against public interest, tsaka yung title 5 about drugs. Supposedly, yung sa drugs po, dapat ilagay natin supposedly yan sa drug education. Pero considering na ang drugs is basically part of the titles of criminal law book, to i-rediscuss na lang po natin. Okay, rediscuss na lang po natin. But then again, I'll also be talking the same sa drug education and vice control po na subject. Okay? Now, without further ado, ang pinakauna pong krimen under crimes against public interest, under Title 4, is counterfeiting the Great Seal of the Government of the Philippine Island, forging the signature or stamp of the Chief Executive. Sino ba yung Chief Executive natin? Ang Chief Executive natin is yung Presidente po ng Pilipinas. Ito po ang mga acts that are considered to be punishable. Yung silyo ng Government of the Philippines was or is forged. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng forging? Andyan po yung definition. Falsely making or materially altering. Gumawa ka ng isang bagay, yung Great Seal, you imitated it, nag-produce ka, pero hindi ka naman authorized. Or you materially altering the Great Seal with the intention to defraud. May intention ka sa panluloko, any writing which, if genuine, might apparently be of legal efficacy or the foundation of a legal liability. So pag na-genuine sana yan, pwede yang magagamit legally. Pero considering that it is not genuine, it is forged under the law, that act is considered as punishable. So again, una dito, forging the Great Seal of the Government of the Philippines, or nag-forge ka ng signature ng presidente natin, or yung stamp of the president is forged. So, punishable po yan. The next one is using forged signature or counterfeit seal or stamp. Now, ang pagkakaiba po sa una, ang offender po, under the first crime in Title 4, ang offender po is yung gumawa, the maker, the producer of the forged seal of the government, or the producer, the one who made the signature, the forged signature, or the counterfeited stamp, yung gumawa po. Pero under sa pangalawang crime po, we have to note na yung offender po dito, yung offender under this article should not be the forger. Okay? User ka lang. Kaya nakalagay dyan, using forged signature. May gumawa, yung gumawa, punishable siya under the first crime na counterfeiting the Great Seal, blah, blah, blah. Pero pag gumamit ka lang, you are just a user, din nasa article ka, on using forged signature or counterfeit seal or stamp. I hope naintindihan po. Again, yung sa unang krimen under Title 4, sino ba yung offender? Yung gumawa. Yung forger. Yung sa pangalawang krimen, sino ba yung offender? Yung offender dito, yung gumamit lang. Right? Elements po dito, the Great Seal of the Republic of the Philippines was counterfeited, or the signature or stamp of the executive was forged by another person. Offender knew the counterfeiting or forgery. Dito po sa element number 2, dapat po alam ng offender with regards to the act of counterfeiting or forgery. Dapat alam niya na yung ginamit niya is basically a counterfeited seal or a counterfeited stamp. Dapat alam niya. Okay? Number 3, he used the counterfeit seal or forged signature or stamp. So, tatlo pong elemento dyan. The Great Seal of the Republic of the Philippines was counterfeited, or the signature is counterfeited, or the stamp is counterfeited. Pangalawa, alam ng user na ang stamp or ang signature or ang Great Seal is counterfeited pero still ginamit niya. He used it. So in that case, liable po siya sa pangalawang krimen under Title 4. Next, pangatlong krimen, making and importing and uttering false coin. Now, intindihin po natin, ano bang ibig sabihin ng to utter? Ano ba ibig sabihin ng uttering? To utter. What does it mean? Ibig sabihin ng to utter, sa context po under this article, ibig sabihin dyan, it's the act of delivery or the act of giving them away. Yung binigay mo. From your position, binigay mo to the other person. Now, we have to understand na ang counterfeited coin po dito, matatawag po siyang uttered if number 1, when it is already paid, or number 2, when the offender is caught counting the counterfeited coins preparatory to the act of delivering them. What do we mean by preparatory to the act of delivering them? Let us say for example, very simple example, sa tindahan, pag binayad mo yung coin, counterfeited coin, basically consummated na yung uttering. Number 2, hindi ka pa nakapagbayad but you are counting the coin in preparation of paying, probably you buy something, paying the store owner with the amount. So, nag-count ka in preparation of paying the store owner. In that case, still yung uttering po natin or to utter is already consummated. Okay? Yan po ibig sabihin ng uttering, to give or to deliver or the act of giving them away. Ano ba yung proseso natin sa pag-give away of the counterfeited coins? Una po, yung binayad mo. Pangalawa, yung nagkwenta ka or yung nag-count ka in preparation po for payment. Okay? I hope klaro po. Elements dito mga kadete, that there be false or counterfeited coins. Remember, need not be legal tender. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng legal tender? Yung mga gamit natin sa pagbayad. Anything that is allowed by law to pay our debt or our taxes or anything that we owe. Pag nagkuha ka ng isang item sa store, ano bang pwedeng magagamit mo to pay what you owe from the store? So basically, ang gagamitin mo would be the money. Question, pag ang kwarta po na binayad mo is US dollar, or let us say, except from US dollar, let's say, yung pera po na ginamit mo is actually from other country, in general sense. From other country. Question, is it a legal tender here in the Philippines to pay probably in the other currency? The answer is no. Kasi ang legal tender po natin is piso. Right? We pay by means of a money in peso currency. Another example, di ba yung may mga pera po tayo in the previous years na hindi na po pwedeng magamit natin to pay something? For example, nung araw po may 5 pesos kami. Banknote po yan, papel. 5 peso. Right now, ang 5 peso natin is coin. Nung araw po namin, 10 pesos, it's a bill, it's a paper. Banknote po siya. Gawa sa papel. But as of now, may coin na po tayo. So kung gagamitin mo yung in the previous years, and you pay the store in it, and the store will not accept it, why will the store has the authority or has the prerogative not to accept it? Simply because what you give to the store is not of legal tender. Hindi na po siya legal tender. Pero, again, sa element number 1, whether a particular coin is legal tender or number 2, not be of legal tender, still pasok po siya. Okay? Pasok po siya sa making and importing and uttering false coin. Okay? Number 2, that the offender either made, imported, or uttered such coin. Ano ba yung sabi natin kanina? Uttered. The act of giving away. Ano ba yung proseso sa pag-give away ng isang counterfeited coin? Binayad mo or yung nagkwinta ka, nag-count ka in preparation for payment. Number 3, that in case of uttering such false or counterfeited coins, he connives with counterfeiters or importers. Anong sabi ng number 3? That in the case of uttering such false or counterfeited coins, the moment or the act of giving away, nakipag-connive ka, nakipag-collaborate ka with the counterfeiters or importers. For short, alam mo that the coin is counterfeited and still you collaborate, you coordinate, or you connive with the counterfeiters in order to utter such counterfeited coins. Okay? Whether ang sabi dito ang false or counterfeited coins can be of legal tender or not be of legal tender. So pag nag-counterfeit ka ng coin sa USA, pwede mo ba yang ibayad sa store sa isang store? For example, sa Cebu, nagbayad ka, of course the store will not accept it. Kasi ang coin po is US made po yan. It's not of legal tender. Pero then again, ang covered po dito, kahit hindi po siya legal tender, so long as alam mo nakipag-connive ka sa counterfeiters or importers in uttering such coin, pasok ka pa rin po sa krimen ng making and importing and uttering false coin. Okay? I hope I am understandable, kadete. Next, kinds of coins, the counterfeiting of which is punished. O ito silver coins of the Philippines or coins of the Central Bank of the Philippines. Yung coins po natin from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Coins of minor coinage of the Philippines or of the Central Bank of the Philippines. For example, yung 10 centavos, 5 centavos, 25 cents. Yan, minor coinage po yan. Then coin of the currency of the foreign country. Alright? So, dito kasali po ang coins of a foreign country. Na kapag counterfeit ka or may nag-counterfeit ng coins from the foreign country, kahit hindi yan legal tender sa Pilipinas, so long as you connive in uttering it or in giving that away to somebody, again, liable ka po sa making and importing and uttering false coins. Next, itong mutilation of coins which is already repelled by PDTIF 247. Mutilation can be done in the following: willful defacement. Number 2, mutilation, yung may pinutol ka or tearing, pinonit mo, or burning, sinunog, or destruction of central banknotes. Ano ba yung mga central banknotes natin? Yung pera po nagawa sa papel. Yung 20 pesos, wala na po tayong 10 pesos ngayon na made of banknotes or made of paper. Usually 20 pesos po meron. But actually right now, even 20 pesos may coin na po tayo. Right? So, anyway, mayroon pa din pong 20 pesos na made of paper. So, banknotes po, yung made of paper, yung coins, yung made of metal. So, again, defacement, mutilation, tearing, burning, or destruction, common po ito. Ano ibig sabihin ng mutilation? To take off part, may kinuha ka of the metal either by filing it or substituting it for another metal, nilagyan mo ng another form of metal, or metal of inferior quality to diminish by ingenious means the metal in the coin. This is very common po dito sa Negros Oriental. Two scenarios. Nung una po, I think it happened 3 years ago, may foreigner po dito, pinunit niya yung, I think it was a 500 pesos because nag-check-in po siya sa isang beach resort, tapos nag-order ng pagkain and he did not like the savor of the food. Yung parang pagbayad niya, he expressed his dissatisfaction on the food, pinunit niya yung pera. Pinunit. It's basically a violation under the law. Number 2, which is very common in Negros Oriental, yung 10 pesos. Yung 10 pesos, di ba may at the middle of it, may another form of metal na pwede pong i-drill ng isang tao and make it into a ring. Yun po ang very common po sa Negros Oriental. So, kinuha yung metal, yung outside, ng isang 10 pesos, tapos yung sa gitna, they drilled it and then make it into a ring. Right? So, in that case po, violation po dito, mutilation of coins. Okay? Notes, foreign notes and coins not included under this article, mutilation must be of Philippine legal tender. So, yun po ang pagkakaiba sa mutilation of coins tsaka yung making and importing and uttering false coins. Yung sa previous po making and importing and uttering false coins, pwede pag pera po sa Pilipinas, which is of legal tender, or yung mga pera po in other countries. Pwede Pero sa mutilation of coins, pag pera po yan, in the other country, for example, i-coin, $1 from America, tapos you mutilate it, wala pong violation po dito. Kasi po, ang mutilation po na isinasaad sa article po na ito, dapat po yung mga Philippine legal tender lang po. Okay? I hope naintindihan. So, hindi kasali yung foreign notes and coins. Pangalawa, the offender must deliberately reduce the precious metal in the coin. Meaning, ibig sabihin ng deliberately, ibig sabihin intentional. Deliberate intent arises only when the offender collects the precious metal dust from the mutilated coin. Pag ginamit mo. If the offender does not collect such dust, intent to mutilate is absent. But Presidential Decree number 247 will apply. Okay? Next, selling of false or mutilated coin without connivance. Under PD 247 pa din. Mga punishable acts po dito, possession of a coin, counterfeited or mutilated by another person with intent to utter the same, knowing that it is false or mutilated. Alam mo, mutilated na yan, you have it within your possession, so pwede po, liable ka under PD 247. Elements nito, possession, may intention ka to utter. Ano ba yung utter natin? Gagamitin po. When say utter, that means an act of giving the money away. Ano ba yung dalawang acts dito sa uttering? Una, ginamit mo sa pagbayad. Number 2, nagkwenta ka. You are counting the money in preparation for payment. Okay? And of course, the knowledge that it is false or mutilated. Number 2, punishable act, actually uttering such false or mutilated coin, knowing the same to be false or mutilated. So elements dito, nag-utter ka and then you have the knowledge thereof. Okay? Next, forging treasury or banknotes, obligations and securities, importing and uttering false or forged notes, obligations and securities. Ito, napaka-generic po. Sometimes we get confused with this one. Now, ito po ang mga acts which are punishable. Una, forging or falsification of treasury or banknotes or documents payable to the bearer. Kasali po dito yung mga cheque po ha. Number 2, importing of such notes from other country to the Philippines. Number 3, uttering of such false or forged obligations and notes in connivance with forgers and importers. Ibig sabihin, nakipag-collaborate ka sa mga forgers or mga importer in order for that money to be used here in the Philippines. Remember mga kadete po, may tatlo po tayong characteristics of the criminal law. Balik po tayo konti sa criminal law book 1. Una po dyan yung tinatawag nating generality, which states that our laws in the Philippines is applicable to everybody, irrespective of whatever circumstances you have in life. Sa territoriality, yung pangalawang characteristics, ibig sabihin dyan, yung batas po natin applicable lang po sa mga naninirahan dito sa Pilipinas or yung mga foreigners which temporarily sojourn here in the Philippines. So long as you are within the territorial limits of the country, you are bound to follow the law. Pero again, sa territoriality po, we knew already na sa pag-territoriality yan, na ang paggawa ng pera po, if you imitate or you counterfeit a money, a Philippine currency, kahit nasa ibang bansa ka po, kahit nasa China ka or nasa Taiwan or nasa Malaysia or America, kahit yung mga countries na yan are beyond the territorial limits of the Philippines, our laws will still extend. Kasi po, exemption yan under territoriality. So pag gumawa ka ngayon ng counterfeited na Philippine currency, doon ka pumunta sa Malaysia, doon ka gumawa, still our laws will apply to you. Okay? Notes forging again is committed by giving a treasury or banknote or document payable to bearer or order and appearance with an appearance of a true and genuine document. Parang, let's say, di ba, nowadays, common yung mga fake money. It really looks like a genuine document. Next, falsification is committed by erasing, substituting, counterfeiting, or altering by any means the figures and letters, words, signs contained therein. Example dito, falsifying lotto or sweepstakes ticket constitutes the complex crime of attempted estafa through falsification of a government security. So, nag-falsify ka ng lotto or sweepstakes ticket para makapagpanalo ka with millions of money. O yan po, liable ka po sa under the law. Now, how forgery is committed? By giving to a treasury or banknote or any instrument payable to bearer or order. Sino ba yung bearer? Yung bayaran mo po, yung binabayaran mo. Or order mentioned therein, the appearance of a true, genuine document, or by erasing, substituting, counterfeiting, or altering by any means the figures, letters, words, or signs contained there. For example, yung 10 pesos, nalagyan mo ng zero. Cheque. Instead of 10,000, nilagyan mo ng isang zero. Yung 10, dinugtungan mo ng zero. So, nagiging 100,000. So, liable po. That's a violation under the law. Next one, forging treasury or bank notes, obligations and securities, importing and uttering false or forged notes, obligations and securities. How are forging and falsifications committed? Paano po ba ito makomit? Makomit po ito by giving to a treasury or bank note or any instrument payable to bearer or to order the appearance of a true and genuine document or by erasing, substituting, counterfeiting, or altering by any means the figures, letters, words, and signs contained therein. So basically, similar po ito sa previous na crime. Pero ang pagkakaiba po sa previous crime is more on importing and uttering the false or forged notes, obligations, and securities. Dito, ikaw yung nag-forge. You forge it. Yung sa previous po, ini-import mo or you utter that false or forged notes. Pero yung dito po sa krimen na ito, ikaw yung nag-forge. Yung sa kabila, nag-i-import ka, meaning nag-give away ka. Right? Pero dito, forging talaga. Ikaw yung nag-forge. Alright? So, falsifications is committed by the following. Una, napaka self-explanatory nito mga kadete. Counterfeiting or imitating any handwriting, signature, or rubric. So, yung yung signature, for example, pag check yan, you counterfeited the signature. Or probably the money. Maybe you want to counterfeit the 1,000. You want to imitate the signatures that can be found in the money, causing it to appear that persons have participated in any act or proceeding when they did not in fact so participate. Still, part din po yan ng falsification. Number 3, attributing to persons who have participated in an act or proceeding statements other than those in fact made by them, making untruthful statements in the narration of facts. Again, falsification po yan. Altering ng pizza, yung true dates niya. Falsification pa din po. Making any alteration or intercalation. Ibig sabihin ng intercalation, mga kadete. Intercalation, ibig sabihin, pag nag-insert ka, something in between. Okay? Nag-insert ka. For example, parang sa police blotter, yung in between two words, nag-insert ka ng another word. For example, you say, criminology students are handsome. Tapos yung are at saka yung handsome, sa gitna, nilagyan mo ng not. So, naging criminology students are not handsome. So, example po yan ng intercalation. Next, issuing in an authenticated form of a document purporting to be a copy of the original document when no such original exists. Pero wala talaga. Or including in such copy a statement contrary to or different from that of the genuine original, intercalating any instrument or note relative to the issuance thereof in a protocol, registry, or official book. So, yun po. On the other hand, mayroon din po tayong tinatawag na falsification of legislative documents. Ano ba yung mga legislative documents? Again, we have 3 independent branches of the government. Number 1, yung executive that would refer to the president. Number 2, the judiciary which will refer to the courts. Legislative, on the other hand, would refer to the lawmaking body. The Congress, the Senate, or the sangguniang panlalawigan. Okay? As long as legislative, yung body ng isang government institution charged in crafting the law. So ito po, there is a bill, resolution, or ordinance enacted or approved or pending approval by either the House of the Legislature or in a provincial board or municipal council. May bill or resolution. Ang offender, ang ginawa niya, nag-alter siya. Ina-alter niya yung bill or resolution. Tapos wala siyang proper authority. Tapos ang nangyari, yung pag-alter niya, naiba yung meaning ng isang document. Naiba yung meaning ng bill. Naiba yung meaning ng isang resolution. So, falsification of legislative documents po ang kaso dyan. Next, falsification by public officer, employee, or notary or ecclesiastic minister. Any public officer, employee, or notary who, taking advantage of his official position, shall falsify a document by committing any of the following acts. Una, nag-counterfeit or nag-imitate ng isang handwriting, signature, or rubric. Pangalawa, causing it to appear that persons have participated in any act or proceeding when they did not, in fact, so participate. Pangatlo, attributing to persons who have participated in an act or proceeding statements other than those in the fact made by them. Again, falsification, which was mentioned a while ago. Making untruthful statements, altering true dates, making any alteration, pareho lang din po sa definition ng falsification in the past. Okay? So, pag ang isang offender is a public officer or public employee or yung nagnonotaryo or ecclesiastic minister, pwede po siyang liable under this crime. Next, on the other hand, ang hindi naman po public officer or public employee, pwede din po malayable ng falsification. Ang krimen po, falsification by private individual and use of falsified document. So, dalawa po dito ang pwedeng punishable. Una, yung private individual shall commit any acts of falsification. Yung na-mention po in the previous crime. In any public or official document or letter of exchange or any other kind of commercial document. So, it could be a public or official document in alter niya or nag-falsify or pwede din pong commercial document. Ano ba yung commercial document? Yung ginagamit natin sa ating business transactions. For example, deed of sale. It's a commercial document. Pangalawang punishable act, any person who to damage of a third party or with the intent to cause such damage shall in any private document commit any of the acts of falsification enumerated in the next preceding article. Again, yung sa previous po ng acts of falsification, pag private po ang nag-commit dyan, ang krimen niya po would be falsification of private individual and use of falsified document. Next, false medical certificates, false certificates of merits, or services, etc. O sino bang liable dito sa false medical certificates? O yung mga physician or yung surgeon. Physician or surgeon who in connection with the practice of his profession shall issue a false certificate. Mali po yung medical certificate na ini-issue mo. For example, you pretend or you claim na ang tao po has a disease para makapag-sick leave. But in reality, wala siyang disease or wala siyang illness. So, basically, that's false medical certificate. Any public officer who shall issue a false certificate of merit of service, good conduct, or similar circumstances. Liable din po. One thing that you have to note is that the penalty of arresto mayor, ano ba yung arresto mayor? This is 1 month and 1 day to 6 months shall be imposed upon any private person who shall falsify a certificate falling within the classes mentioned in 2 preceding subdivision. Ito common ito, di ba mga kadete? May mga, for example, may mga academicians or workers in the academy na nagfo-falsify ng mga certificates para lang ma-promote. Even in other institutions, for example, in a Department of Education, in order for you to be promoted to a higher rank, sometimes it requires trainings and seminars that you need to attend. So, wala ka dyan. So, ang ginawa ng isang teacher, pwede po, you forge or probably you make a certificate to appear that you participated in the activity. Where in reality, hindi po. So, falsification po yan. Ang penalty dito, arresto mayor sa mga private individuals. Next, usurpation of authority or official functions. Ano yung ibig sabihin ng usurpation of authority? You pretend that you are somebody where in fact you are not. That's the basic interpretation. Or probably, you're just an ordinary guy and you act or you take the actions or the authority of, let's say, a judge or probably a police officer. Kahit hindi ka naman police officer, nagpa-police ka lang. So, usurpation of authority or official function. Elements, offender performs any act. Yung act po should pertains to any person in authority or public officer of the Philippine government or any foreign government or any agency thereof, under pretense of official position without being lawfully entitled to do so. Diba? A lot of cases happened na nag-checkpoint, naka-police uniform, nag-checkpoint, checking the different vehicles, asking for an amount pag nagva-violate. But in reality, yung nagmaman ng checkpoint are actually ordinary guys. So they are usurping the police authority. Plus, may violation pa po sa pag-wear ng insignia and police uniform. Ibang krimen din po yan, aside from usurpation. Ang yung usurpation is yung nagpe-perform ka ng function ng isang government employee kahit hindi ka naman authorized. Okay? Next, using fictitious name and concealing true name. Okay? Ito, mga kadete, probably will ask, yung mga artista, sir, diba, iba-iba yung mga pangalan nila. Are they liable under the law? So, tingnan po natin ha. Using fictitious name and concealing true name. Elements under use of fictitious name offender has a name other than his real name. Ibig sabihin, may pseudonym ka. Or may nag-adapt ka ng other names. He uses the fictitious name publicly. Ano ibig sabihin ng publicly? Maging public yan pag 3 persons and above, ha? Pag 2 persons lang, private lang yan. The purpose of the use of the fictitious name dapat to conceal a crime. Okay. Number 2, evade the execution of judgment. Number 3, cause damage. So, under the elements under the use of fictitious name, let us say for example, yung mga rapper natin sa Pilipinas, yung nagra-rap, yung mga singer natin, di ba? They go with a different name. Are they liable? Ang sagot po dito, hindi. Kasi po, even though yung element number 1 and number 2 are present, pero yung element number 3 is absent naman, so basically, hindi po sila liable. Even though number 1, may fictitious name sila, number 2, they use that fictitious name publicly, pero hindi naman ginamit nila yan to conceal a crime or to evade the execution of judgment. Hindi rin nila ginamit ang kanilang fictitious name to cause damage. So basically, absent po yung element number 3. Remember mga kadite again, dapat lahat ng elements of the crime dapat ma-meet po. In this case, 1 and 2 lang. So question ngayon again, yung mga artista natin, yung mga singer, yung mga rapper, are they liable for having a fictitious name? The answer is no. Okay? Next, elements under concealing true name. Offender conceals his true name and other personal circumstances. Purpose is only to conceal his identity. Yung mga artista, po, mga kadite, the same situation po. Nagagamit ng mga fictitious name, nagkukonceal ng true name. Pero again, so long as may fictitious name ka, pero wala ka namang intensyon to conceal your true identity. Alam naman ng publiko kung sino ka in real life. Alam ng public kung taga saan ka. Yung parents mo, alam nila. So basically, yung circumstances mo, alam po ng publiko, hindi po siya liable. Okay? So long as yung 2 element is not present. Okay? Next, ito, illegal use of uniforms or insignia. Okay? Marami po ang naging perpetrator rather nito, di ba? There was a Facebook post na naging viral. Yung isang lalaki nagpapanggap ng isang pulis, nakipag-date, tapos hindi niya alam na yung kadate niya pala is basically a police operative. And the purpose thereof is to entrap him with the commission of the crime. So, it's very humiliating. So, yung ordinary citizens, di po pwede tayong gumamit ng uniforms and insignia. Ito po yung mga elemento ha. Offender makes use of insignia, uniform, or dress. The insignia, uniform, or dress pertains to the office not held by such person or class of persons of which he is not a member. For example, PNP, AFP, PDEA, kahit hindi ka naman membro dyan. Said insignia, uniform, or dress is used publicly and improperly. Okay? Kaya nga po, yung mga teleserye natin, they are prohibited. Okay, they are prohibited to wear this kind of clothings, yung uniform po, because it's a violation. Now, may mga batas po kasi nito. For example, yung I think I could name 3. If I could still remember, I think I could name 3 pertinent laws that are related to this. Una yung Republic Act 492. Ano ba yung Republic Act 492? Something that regulates or nagpapanish po sa pagsuot ng insignia, badge, or emblem of the rank of the members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or yung sa Army. Sinuot ng isang ordinaryong tao. Or Republic Act 75, unauthorized wearing of any naval, military, police, uniform, and insignia. Yung sa Navy, yung sa yung sa police, or yung sa military. AO 297, which punishes the illegal manufacture, sale, distribution, and use of PNP uniforms insignia. Okay, yun po ang mga batas that are very related to this. Nauna po yung Republic Act 492, pangalawa Republic Act 75, at saka yung Executive Order 297. Okay? Next, false testimony against a defendant. Sino ba yung defendant? Yung accused. Okay? Yung accused. False testimony against a defendant. Ito po yung mga elemento natin. There is a criminal proceeding. May criminal proceeding. Ibig sabihin, may trial. Offender testifies falsely under oath against the defendant. Ibig sabihin ng under oath. Diba? The moment a witness will testify, diba? He has to raise his right arm or right hand and he has to swear before the court that he will only tell the truth. The truth only and nothing but the truth. Number 3, offender knows that it is false. Alam niya, mali po yung testimony niya. Defendant against whom the false testimony is given is either acquitted or convicted in a final judgment. Remember ha, dapat ang defendant, because of the testimony, pwede siyang na-acquit lang or convicted. Hindi nakalagay dito dismiss ha, walang dismiss. Ang nakalagay dito, acquitted or convicted, yung defendant. Because of the testimony, na-acquit siya or na-convicted yung defendant. Now, note mga kadete, dapat dito sa false testimony against defendant, one thing that you have to remember, especially yung magti-take ng board examination, one thing that you have to remember is that dapat po matapos muna yung trial. Ibig sabihin, dapat may conviction or may judgment na acquitted. Ibig sabihin again, tapos na po yung trial. Now, the complainant, in order to file a case on false testimony against a defendant, he or she must wait for the finality of the judgment because the penalty would depend upon the penalty imposed by the court to the defendant. So ano bang ibig sabihin nito? Ibig sabihin, napakasimple po. Before ka mag-file ng kaso na false testimony against a defendant, before ka mag-file sa kaso na yan, dapat natapos na yung trial. Dapat may judgment na. Ang judgment could either be acquitted or convicted yung defendant. So, bakit po kailangang tapusin muna? Dapat may judgment na. Kasi po, ang penalty ng false testimony against a defendant, nagadepende po siya kung ano yung penalty na na-impose sa isang defendant. So, pag malaki yung penalty na naibigay sa defendant, posibleng malaki din po ang penalty sa false testifier. Okay? For example, pag ang ibinigay po na penalty is, let us say, reclusion temporal to reclusion perpetua. Ano ba yung reclusion temporal? Dapat memorize nyo na mga kadete ha, yung arresto minor up to reclusion perpetua. So ano ba yung reclusion temporal? That's 12 years and 1 day to 20 years. Yung reclusion perpetua naman, 20 years and 1 day to 40 years. So, kung reclusion temporal o reclusion perpetua yung punishment ng defendant because of that false testimony, pwede pong malayable ang false testifier ng krimen na ito and he will be punished by prison mayor. Ano ba yung prison mayor? 6 years and 1 day to 12 years yan. Okay? Pero on the other hand, let us say, paikliin natin ng konti. Yung punishment ng defendant because of the testimony is only other afflictive penalty other than reclusion temporal and perpetua. For example, ang punishment niya is probably arresto mayor, papuntang prison mayor. Yun po ang penalty sa defendant. Napinalay siya because of that false testimony. Ang false testifier, pwede siyang punishable ng prison correctional. That's 6 months and 1 day to 6 years. Okay? On the other hand, pag correctional penalty naman siya, ang naibigay po sa defendant, for example, ang defendant, nag-suffer lang siya ng prison correctional. Prison correctional lang. So, dito po, ang testifier will suffer reclusion temporal. Okay? So yan po ang or even if the defendant is acquitted, pag acquitted po yung defendant or probably yung defendant na pinalay siya ng correctional penalty, pag-file ng kaso ng false testimony against a defendant, yung testifier po who will be liable, panisyan siya ng reclusion temporal. See? So, yan po, false testimony against a defendant. So again, take note pwede ka po makapag-file pag tapos na, pag may judgment na po. Okay? Next, false testimony in other cases and perjury in solemn affirmation. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng solemn affirmation? Ibig sabihin dyan, non-judicial proceeding and affidavits. Ano ibig sabihin ng non-judicial proceeding? Ibig sabihin, wala sa korte. Wala sa trial. Not during trial. Not within the courtroom. Okay? For example, nag-execute ng affidavit sa labas. That's basically solemn affirmation. Now, acts punishable, falsely testifying under oath by making a false statement. Elements of perjury, offender makes a statement under oath or executes an affidavit upon a material matter. Pangalawa, statement or affidavit is made before a competent officer authorized to receive and administer oath. Sino ba ito? Itong mga lawyers natin. Yung mga notary public. Okay? But again, mga kadete, huwag kalimutan, hindi lahat ng lawyers pwede makapag-notaryo. Okay? Hindi lahat ng lawyers makapag-notaryo. Yung mga lawyers lang po na may tinatawag nating permit. Yung permit na yan, yung notarial commission na kinukuha nila sa Supreme Court. So pag walang notarial commission, hindi siya pwede makapag-notaryo. Okay? So, yun po. Pwede sila makapag-receive and administer oath, yung mga notary public po natin. Offender makes a willful and deliberate assertion of a falsehood in a statement or affidavit. Ibig sabihin, nanluloko siya. Nagbigay siya ng statement, pero alam niya na yung statement na ilagay niya sa affidavit is actually not correct. Alam niyang mali po. The sworn statement or affidavit containing the falsity is required by law, made for a legal purpose. So dapat, yung falsification na ginawa niya sa kanyang affidavit, dapat gamitin yan for a legal purpose. For example, nag-execute siya ng affidavit for the purpose of number 1, para mag-testify na ang tao ay siyang pumatay sa biktima, but in reality, hindi po. So, in that example po, you are falsifying, you are committing perjury. Okay? So, yan po ang elements of perjury. Sino ba yung competent person authorized to administer an oath? This means a person who has the right to inquire into the questions presented to him upon matters under his jurisdiction. Itong mga lawyers natin. Yung mga chief executive, local chief executive, pwede din po, they can take their oath. They can actually receive. You can take oath from them. Note, mga kadete, false testimony should be not in judicial proceeding. Ito po ang sabi ko kanina. Now, kanina po in the previous crime, yung false testimony against a defendant, mga kadete, makinig po. Ang sabi ko kanina, dapat you have to wait for the judgment before you can file a case or a complaint against a false testifier. Saan ba nangyayari ang false testimony dito? Yung sa previous crime balik ulit tayo sa false testimony against a defendant. Saan ba nangyari ang krimen? Nangyari yung false testimony within the court during trial. Pero dito sa false testimony in other cases and perjury in solemn affirmation, ang nangyayari po pag-commit ng perjury o yung pag-commit ng false testimony na ginawa through the execution of affidavits, nangyari po siya in front of a notary public or anybody who is a solemnizing officer authorized to receive and administer oath. So, ibig sabihin, you falsely assert a statement through an affidavit and you take your oath in front of a lawyer. Hindi ka po nasa loob ng courtroom. Wala ka, nasa labas ka. For example, pumunta ka ngayon sa isang law firm. Doon ka nang execute ng affidavit. Nag-swear ka na yung nasa affidavit, yun po ang totoo. But in reality, false po yan. Basically, ang crimen, false testimony in other cases and perjury in solemn affirmation. Pero pag nasa korte ka, nag-testify ka doon, and you know that your testimony is false, After pag may judgment, pwede ka pong liable under false testimony against a defendant. Yun po ang pagkakaiba sa dalawa. I hope naintindihan na mga kadete. Ano ba yung so in a basic sense, ano ba yung perjury? Ibig sabihin ng perjury, you just pervert from the truth, right? Taliwas yung sinabi mo is basically a taliwas. Taliwas po sa kung anong nangyayari sa totoong buhay. Okay? So, let us say, under number 4. Balik tayo sa number 4. Probably, na-confuse pa din po kayo sa number 4. The sworn statement or affidavit containing the falsity is required by law made for a legal purpose. Yun po, sabi ko kanina, gumawa ka ng affidavit. Ang affidavit niyan contains your testimony against a person. Pero, let us say, diary, for example, gumawa ka ng diary. Nag-assert ka doon that somebody, that you saw somebody stabbing somebody, but in reality, hindi ka nakakita. Inlagay mo sa diary. Question, ang diary ba could be a viable material under the elements of perjury? The answer is no. Okay, hindi po siya. So, kasi hindi po yan ginagamit for a legal purpose. Okay? Pero pag affidavit po, executed in front of a notary public, pasok po tayo. Okay? I hope naintindihan mga kalite. I'm really trying my best for you to understand. Next! Offering false testimony in evidence. Okay? This article applies when the offender, without endorsing another but knowing him to be a false witness, presented him and the latter testified falsely in a judicial or official proceeding. Kahit alam mo na ang isang tao is actually a false witness, pero you still present him in the court for him to testify on a certain matter. So, common sense mga kadete, sino ba ang liable dito? O di ang liable dito is yung mga lawyer. Lawyers po. Alam mo na mali yung, alam mo that a person is a false witness, but still again, you present him in court para makapag-testify. Patay kang lawyer. Patay kang lawyer ka, pwede kang madisbar dyan. Na? So, pwede pong liable offering false testimony and evidence. Notes, the felony is consummated the moment false witness is offered in any judicial or official proceeding. Looking for a false witness is not punishable under the law. Take note ha, looking for a false witness, hindi po siya punishable. Pero pag may nakita ka na tapos you presented him, ang element kasi dito, dapat na-present mo. Kasi pag hindi na-present naman, you're not liable. The false witness need not be convicted of false testimony. Di ba kanina, yung false testifier, liable siya ng false testimony against a defendant. Liable siya. Kailan ka po mag-file ng kaso? Pagkatapos, pag may judgment na. Pero dito sabi dito, the false witness need not be convicted of false testimony. Kahit hindi po naging convicted yung false testifier, so long as ikaw yung nag-offer, patay ka. Ang tao na nag-offer is liable. A mere offer to present him is sufficient. Again, the counsel is the one liable in this case. Kino ba yung counsel again? Ito yung mga lawyers po natin. Alright? Next, machinations in public auctions. Bakit po? This is no longer related to testimony mga kadete ha. Bakit kailanganin ang auction? Diba sa mga government agencies natin, even the Department of Education, may mga bidding committee yan. Ang purpose thereof is yung makabili ng materialis or makapag-produce ng isang proyekto na mura. Okay? That is cheaper at the same time of quality. Yan po ang purpose basically ng bidding. So pag nagbibidding, may mga bidders yan. For example, pag construction of a national highway, di ba, may mga bidders yan. Kung ano-ano yung mga kompanya that are into that construction business. Yung pinakamura, yun po ang pwede makapanalo sa bidding. Pero pag you manipulated something in a public auction, pwede pong liable tayo sa batas. Ang tawag po, machinations in public auctions. Now, this crime po can be committed in two general ways. Una, soliciting in a gift. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng soliciting? You are asking for a gift or promiso as a consideration for refraining from taking part in any public auction. So, You probably ask somebody, so bigyan nyo ako ng 1 million para hindi na lang ako mag-participate. That's machinations in public auction under Act number 1. Sa Act number 1, ito po yung mga elements. May public auction, yung offender nag-solicit, naghingi ng gift or promise from any of the bidders. For example, may company A, company B, company C, company D, 4 na companies yung nag-participate, ikaw yung company F. So, naghingi ka ng pera sa 4 na companies para hindi ka na lang mag-participate. So, yung mga ganyan. Offender, again, ask for gift or promise from any of the bidders. Such gift or promise is the consideration for his refraining. Ibig sabihin ng refraining para hindi ka, you prevent yourself from taking part in that public auction. Offender has the intent to cause the reduction of the price of the thing auction. So basically, liable ka po under Act number 1. Machinations in public auctions. Number 2, Act, attempting to cause bidders to stay away from an auction by threats, gifts, promises, or any artifice. So, elements nito, may auction, then attempts to cause the bidders to stay away from the public auction. Ibig sabihin, sinabihan mo yung mga bidders, huwag kayong mag-participate. Pag mag-participate kayo, barilin ko kayong lahat. So, yung mga ganyan. Next, it is done by pwede threats or pwede gifts. Ano ba ang pinagkaiba sa Act number 2 at Act number 1? So, yung Act number 1, ikaw yung naghingi. Sa Act number 2, ikaw yung nagbigay. Nagbigay ka ng gifts or promises or any other artifice. For example, ano ba yung sabihin ng any other artifice? For example, yung bidders, sinabihan mo, huwag ka na mag-participate, Choy. Bibigyan kita ng 11 dump trucks. So, yung mga ganyan. Offender has the intent to cause the reduction of the price of the thing auction. So, yun po ang elements under Act number 2. Next, tapos na po tayo mga kaditi sa Article 4. Okay, Article 4. Andito tayo ngayon sa Article 5. Now, again, I have to say this. This is a repetition po sa discussion natin sa drug education and vice control. So, ang main player po dito na provisions is yung sa Republic Act 9165 as amended by 10640. May amendment nga sa 10640 pero majority of the provisions po na still in effect as of now is yung sa 9165. Konti lang po yung amendments. Okay? Sa 10640. So, yung mga prevailing provisions na still in effect as of now is yung sa 9165. Start tayo sa definition ng, ano ba yung 9165? Comprehensive Dangerous Drug Act of 2002. Start tayo sa mga definition of terms. Okay? Una, the dangerous drugs, DD. Okay? Ang mga dangerous drugs, lahat po that are annexed under the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, kasali dito, marijuana, heroin, ecstasy, you name it. Under the 1987 Single Convention on Psychotropic Substances, blah, 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 lahat ng naka-annex dyan, considered as dangerous drugs. Kasali din po dyan yung, even yung rugby, yung methamphetamine hydrochloride, kasali din po. Next, CP and EC, Controlled Precursors and Essential Chemicals. Ang controlled precursors naman, saka yung essential chemicals, these are listed in tables 1 and 2 of the 1988 Convention Against Illicit Traffic in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances as enumerated in the attached annex, blah, blah, blah. For short, pag controlled precursor, yung mga ginagamit po, yung mga equipment, yung mga equipment or anything, amenities na pwede pong gamitin sa pag-produce ng isang dangerous drug. Yung mga essential chemicals naman, yung mga any type of chemicals to produce a certain dangerous drug. For example, ano ba yung combination ng mga chemicals sa paggawa ng shabu? Ayun ba yung combination ng chemicals sa paggawa ng ecstasy? Yun po. Next, drug syndicate. Dito sa drug syndicate, sa definition under 9165, organized group of 2 or more persons, at least 2 or more persons forming or joining together with the intention of committing any offense prescribed under this act. But in some other crimes, ang syndicate po is defined as 3 or more persons. Pero dito, at least 2 or more individuals. Okay? Next, financier. O yung nag-finance, siya yung nagbayad, raises or supplies money for or underwrites any of the illegal activities prescribed under RA 9165. Protector or cuddler, yung mga politicians natin, yung mga nasa law enforcement agency, who will willfully consent to the unlawful act, tapos ginagamit yung power nila, position or influensya, para at least yung mga violators will not be punished. Pusher, sino ba yung pusher? Yung nagtitinda. Okay, nagdi-deliver. Okay, sa illegal drugs. Next, under the crime of 9165, dispensation, delivery, distribution, and transportation of dangerous drugs and or controlled precursors and essential chemicals. Dapat dito, may proof that the transaction or sale took place. Kasi po, ngayon, again, we are required by the law as mandated by the Supreme Court of the Philippines, dapat po may body-worn camera na po tayo na isa, tapos isang alternative recording device. That will prove na may transaction na nangyayari. Or by the use of buy-bust money or mark money, that will actually prove to the court na may transaction or sale that took place. Kailan po mangyayari? Kailan po makonsummate yung transaction? Makonsummate yung transaction pag nakuha na po yung pera. Pag ibinagay mo yung pera, yung mark money sa seller, o yan po, the moment he received it, it's already consummated. Yung transaction is na-meet na po. Next, presentation in court of the corpus delicti or illicit drug as evidence. Ano ba yung corpus delicti? The body of the crime, which would refer to the elements of the crime. Okay, next. Trading. Transactions involving the illegal trafficking or dangerous drugs or controlled precursors. It could either be through text messages, pwedeng email, pwedeng pagtawag sa mobile or landlines, to radio, so on and so forth. Administrating any act of introducing the dangerous drugs into the body. Pwede siyang oral, pwede siyang through injection. Okay? Next, dispensation. Any act of giving away or distributing medicine or any dangerous drugs. From the word dispense. An act of giving away the dangerous drug. Next, delivery. Passing the dangerous drugs from one person to another. It could be personally or otherwise or by any other means. Note, in the illegal sale of dangerous drugs and or controlled precursors and essential chemicals, presentation of the buy-bust money is not indispensable to the prosecution of a drug case. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Hindi po siya prerequisite. Hindi po siya pinaka-importante sa lahat na dapat may ma-produce ka na buy-bust money. For short, although buy-bust money can still be used as evidence against a person, but then again, it is not a requirement. Kahit wala ka pong buy-bust money, hindi po siya indispensable to the prosecution sa drug case. Okay? Mga kadete, ito yung mga maximum penalty that can be imposed. Pag nangyayari ito sa isang drug transaction or sa pag-distribute or pag-dispense ng dangerous drugs, pwede pong ma-maximize yung penalty. Una, pag yung illegal drug distribution or activities is within 100 meters from a school. It could be elementary, secondary, or tertiary school. Pwede din po kahit TISDA. TISDA is considered as a school. Using minors or mentally incapacitated individuals as runners, couriers, and messengers. Nako, in Cebu, there are a lot of instances, yung nagbibinta po 12 years old, 11 years old, even 10 years old. Selling marijuana, selling shabu in a broad daylight. Tapos they are bringing with them birth certificates. Wala tayong magawa dyan, mga kadete. Kasi po, may Republic Act 9344 po tayo. Hindi nga po hindi natin tawaging arrest yan eh. Ang tawag dyan, rescue lang. We cannot handcuff the person. Kasi po, minor. Marami pong instances. Kaya dapat yung Republic Act 9344 na yan, dapat gawing obsolete na yan. It has to be put in a trash can. Kasi marami pong nag-take ng advantage. Maraming mga drug pushers, after they know about the benefits of Republic Act 9344, they use minors. Kasi yan ang loophole dyan eh. 9 years old. Alam naman natin mga kadete na yung mga bata sa malalaking syudad, as early as 8 or 9, very mature na. Their way of thinking, the way they act, napaka-mature na po, 8 or 9. So if you will use 10 years old or 11 years old in selling the drugs in broad daylight, wala po tayong magawa. All we have to do is to rescue the child and probably put him in Department of Social Welfare and Development. But then again, the malady will remain so long as yung Republic Act 9344 will be still in effect. Okay? So, yung gumamit ng mga bata, yung mentally incapacitated individuals, ginagawang pusher, nagbibinta, or mga messenger, pwede pong maximum penalty yung ibigay kung sino man yung gumamit ng minor or mentally incapacitated. If the victim of the offense is a minor or mentally incapacitated individual or should a dangerous drugs or a controlled precursor, an essential chemical be the proximate cause of death of a victim thereof. So pag nag-overdose, na-overdose na yung biktima, namatay, yung nagbibinta is penalized in a maximum penalty or with a maximum penalty. On any person who organizes, manages, or acts as financier of any of the legal activities, maximum penalty po dapat ang i-impose. Next, ito pinaka-importante, Section 11 of 9165. Possession of dangerous drugs. Okay, dito marami ang naging liable dito Section 11 yung nakumit. Elements dito, una, accused is in possession of an item or object identified as a regulated drug. Prohibited or regulated drug. Ano bang pinagkaiba sa prohibited at saka regulated? Yung prohibited po is not allowed under the law. Yung regulated naman, pwede siya magamit pero regulated. For example, gumamit ka ngayon ng droga in order to, bumili ka ngayon ng sa pharmacy. Yung isang medisina that can actually cause abortion sa mga babae that are pregnant, it's a regulated drug. Or yung drugs that requires prescription. Okay, that is a good explanation. Yung mga drugs that requires prescription, regulated drugs po ang tawag dyan. Yung mga prohibited drugs, yung drugs na hindi po tayo pwedeng gamitin, like shabu, like heroin, so on and so forth. I hope nakuha niyo po ang difference. Next, such possession is not authorized by law. Letter C, the accused freely and consciously possessed the drug. Okay? So, alam niya that he possessed the drug. So, basically, that's one of the elements that you have. Dito sa number 3, ang pinaka-tricky dyan. How will you prove in the court that the accused knowingly possessed the drug? So, pag may for example, pag drug transaction yan, the accused could not contest to the court that he is unaware that he is bringing drugs with him kasi drug transaction yan eh. So, mas okay. Pero pag yung normal lang, user, and then you conducted a search, probably the user could contest element number 3. Okay? So, may tinatawag po tayong dalawang concept dito mga kadete. Yung tinatawag nating constructive possession at saka yung presumption of possession. Okay? Pag constructive possession po, okay? Pag constructive possession, nag-i-exist lang po siya pag ang droga is under the dominion tapos and control of the accused, or when he has the right to exercise dominion and control over the place where it is found. So, masabi natin na may constructive possession. Kasi, may control ka eh. May dominion ka eh. For example, nasa bahay mo yan. Or nasa nagbo-boarding house ka, nasa loob ng kwarto mo ang droga. So basically, there is constructive possession. Meaning, there is now an assumption that you really own the drug. Kasi nga po, may dominion ka may control ka dyan sa room. Not anybody can just get inside. It's a private place. Or nasa loob ng bulsa mo. Di ba? You have control over your pocket. You have dominion over your pocket. So basically, constructive possession po yan. Next, presumption of possession. Kailan po natin ma-presume ang possession ng isang droga? Ganito po. When a prohibited or regulated drugs are found in the house or probably other buildings belonging to or occupied by a particular person, the presumption arises that such persons is in possession of such drug in violation of the law, and the fact of finding the same is sufficient to convict the guy. So, ibig sabihin nito, may presumption of possession. Pag una, nakita mo ang drug sa loob ng bahay. Or number 2, hindi sa bahay mo, pero sa building that you owned. Okay? Owned. Or number 3, yung building occupied by you. In that case, you have the presumption, or we have the presumption that you really possess, that you really own the drug. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng constructive at presumption? Ang constructive, you have control, you have dominion over the place or over the drugs. For example, nasa pocket mo. O constructive possession yan. Nasa loob ng kwarto mo, constructive possession yan. Kasi may control ka, may dominion. Sa presumption of possession, ma-presume that you possess the drugs kasi nga, nasa building mo nasa bahay mo See, it's more on the place. Right? It's more on the place. Nasa bahay mo, nasa loob ng building mo that you own. So basically, presumption of possession. Sa constructive, it's more on the dominion and control over the drugs or control over the place where you find the drugs. Alright? Hindi lahat kasi, pag lugar kasi, presumption of possession automatic. Pero constructive possession, kahit nasa bulsa mo, nasa bulsa or nasa pocket, yun po. Constructive possession yan. Or probably, again, nasa bahay ka, yung room mo, doon nakita ang drugs, constructive possession po yan. Next, use of dangerous drugs, section 15. Ito yung gumagamit. Committed by a person, apprehended or arrested who is found to be positive for use of dangerous drugs after na po sa confirmatory test. Ano ba yung confirmatory test? Yung pangalawang test to prove. Dalawa kasi yan, preliminary at confirmatory. Preliminary, anong droga? Positive ka ba sa drugs? Confirmatory, anong droga ang ginamit mo? Section 15 shall not be applicable where the person tested is also found to have in his or her possession such quantity of any dangerous drugs provided for under Section 11 of this Act, in which case the provisions stated therein shall apply. Klaro dyan basahin ko po ang notations nito mga kadete. Ang Section 15 po, hindi po siya applicable. Kailan po siya hindi magiging applicable? Hindi siya applicable where the person tested is also found to have in his her possession the quantity of any dangerous drugs provided for under Section 11 of this Act, in which case the provisions stated therein shall apply. For short, in the common sense explanation, ibig sabihin, yung tao nakita may droga in his possession. He was been confirmed by means of an examination, confirmed siya that he used the drugs. Ang ma-apply po na provision is yung possession of dangerous drugs and not the use of dangerous drugs. Kuha po? Okay, next. Confirmatory test again. Ito yung mga test na ginagamit po to confirm that a person really used a particular type of dangerous drug. Alright? Other punishable acts, mga kadete, importation of dangerous drugs and or controlled precursors and essential chemicals. These are very self-explanatory. Number 2, maintenance of den, dive, or resort. O, ito mga kadete, ano ba yung den, dive, or resort? Ito yung lugar kung saan nangyayari yung pag-deliver, pag-administer, or pag-store ng illegal drugs. Pinaka-common dyan in some cities, especially yung nasa squatter area, yung boarding house mo, ginamit mo as a meeting place para sa mga drug addicts, doon sila nagsisession. Patay ka ngayon. Punishable ka. Pati yung employees and visitors of a den, dive, or resort. Pero ang elements dito, employment in a den, dive, or resort by an employee who is aware of the nature of the place. As such, as a visiting of any person not being included, who is aware of the nature of the place as such, I'll knowingly visit the same. For short, visitor ka or employee ka ng isang lugar, alam mo dapat na may mga taong pumupunta dyan, ang purpose sa pagpunta is just to have the session of drugs. Alam mo, kahit empleyado ka lang, you are still liable under the law. Or number 2, kahit visitor ka lang, hindi ka empleyado dyan, visitor ka lang, alam mo na may mga taong gumagawa ng session sa drugs, tapos bumibisita ka, kahit visitor ka lang, you are still liable under the law. Next, sino ba yung mga employee of a den, dive, or resort? Ito careful po tayo dito. Caretaker. Kasali dito. Gardener. Kasali dyan. Helper. Pati na yung watchman or lookout and other persons working in a den, dive, or resort employed by the maintainer, owner, or operator with any dangerous drugs, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, kasali. Alright? Next. Number 4, manufacturing dangerous drugs and or controlled precursors and chemicals. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng manufacturing? It's basically to produce or to manufacture. Pwede ka gumagawa ka ng dangerous drugs or nagproduce ka ng controlled precursors or probably mga chemicals, ingredients sa paggawa ng isang droga. May exception tayo dito. Does not include the preparation, compounding, packaging, or labeling of a drug or other substances by a duly authorized practitioner as an incident to his or administration dispensation of such drug in the course of his professional practice, including research, teaching, chemical analysis, blah, 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 blah. So for short, pag nagmamanufacture ka ngayon ng droga, for example, sa chemistry class, okay? Sa chemistry program, kursong chemistry, yung magiging chemist, nag-experiment sila ngayon kung ano ang paggawa, ano ang mga proseso sa paggawa ng methamphetamine hydrochloride. Under the law, hindi po sila liable kasi ginagamit po sa professional practice. Okay, sa pag-teach or sa pag-research or sa chemical analysis. Alright? Next, illegal chemical diversion of controlled precursors and essential chemicals under ito sa Section 9. So, ano ibig sabihin ng chemical diversion? Ito po yung pag-sale, pag-distribute, or pag-supply, even pag-transport ng mga chemicals. Yung mga ingredients, mga chemicals na ingredients sa paggawa ng isang dangerous drugs. Pwede ang pag-distribute or ang pag-supply or ang pag-transport, it could be through fraudulent document, pwede din pong falsified permits or probably misdeclaration. Ibig sabihin ng misdeclaration, sabihin na ang nasa loob is just basically RTWs, pero in reality, ang nasa loob are actually chemicals, ingredients to produce a certain drug, or maybe use of front companies. Di ba may mga drug pushers that are very, very clever. Gumagamit ng mga legitimate companies para to transport or to supply the chemicals needed in the production of prohibited drugs. So may nangyayari pong mga ganyan. Alright? Next, manufacturing or delivering equipment, instrument, apparatus, and other paraphernalia for dangerous drugs and or controlled precursors and essential chemicals. Possession of equipment, instrument, apparatus, and other paraphernalia for dangerous drugs. Ito mga kadetya, careful po tayo dito. For example, may tutor ka. Di ba, pag nagsisession yung mga drug addict, di ba, may lighter yan, may foil. Di ba? Possession of dangerous drugs during parties, social gatherings, or meetings is also punishable. Possession of equipment, instrument, apparatus, and other paraphernalia for dangerous drugs during parties, social gatherings, or meetings, or in a proximate company of at least 2 people. Cultivation or culture of plants. Dito po, papasok yung pag-cultivate ng marijuana. Number 11, failure in maintaining and keeping of original records of transaction on dangerous drugs or controlled precursors. Ito, liable dito yung mga nasa pharmacy. Dapat may ano yan ha, original record. Next, unnecessary prescription of dangerous drugs. Sino ba yung liable dito? Ito yung mga physician. The practitioner who unnecessarily prescribe the dangerous drugs will have his her license to practice revoked. Ma-revoke po yung lisensya niya. For example, yung mga physician na nagbibigay ng prescription na droga para sa abortion. Di po pwede yan. Unlawful prescription of dangerous drugs, planting of any dangerous drugs or controlled precursors and essential chemicals regardless of quantity and purity. Ano ibig sabihin ng planting? Remember ha, mga criminologists, pag naging police kayo, hindi kayo agriculture. Hindi po culture natin na nagpa-plant tayo ng evidence, ha? Huwag po kayo mag-plant ng evidence. We are not into planting. Ano ba yung planting ng evidence? Yung nilagyan mo. Nilagyan mo sa isang place, nilagyan mo probably inside the pocket of the person in order to implicate him or to incriminate him to a certain violation under 9165. Okay? Next, ito, immunity from prosecution. Sino ba yung pwedeng hindi ma-prosecute? When you say immunity, hindi pwede, hindi siya ma-prosecute. Any person shall be exempted from prosecution or punishment for the offense when the person, kahit nakapag-commit ka ng krimen sa 9165, pwede ka pong exempted from prosecution. Pag, number 1, nag-violate ka sa Section 7. Ano ba yung Section 7? Ito yung mga employees or visitors of the den or the resort. Or number 2, yung Section 11, yung possession of dangerous drugs. Or probably number 12, possession of equipment, instrument, blah, blah, blah. Or 14, possession of equipment, blah, 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 in gatherings and meetings. Or 15, use of dangerous drugs. And in 19, unlawful prescription of dangerous drugs. O na yan ha, nag-violate ka sa, it's either one of that sections. Either number 1 element ha. Number 2 element, nakapag-violate ka sa number 2 element, voluntarily gives information. Oo, nag-violate ka nga. Let us say, for example, may possession ka. Section 11, possession of dangerous drugs. Okay, na I am liable thereof, pero nagbigay din pa ako voluntarily ng information about any of the violations of Section 4. Ano ba yung Section 4? Yung pag-import ng drugs o pa-import ng mga controlled precursors and essential chemicals. Or 6, yung sino yung nag-maintain, sino yung owner na nag-maintain ng den, dive or resort na ginagamit sa drug season. Or number 8, alam mo kung saan minamanufacture yung droga. Or number 10, saan yung manufacture or delivery of equipment, instrument, and apparatus in the production of drugs. Or 13, possession of dangerous drugs during parties, social gathering. Alam mo na kailan po o sino ba yung pwedeng gumagamit ng droga sa isang party, sa isang social gathering. Or number 16, alam mo kung saan kino-cultivate yung, for example, marijuana. So basically, if you can give information about this, pwede po, may immune ka from prosecution. Letter B, any information leading to the whereabouts, identities, and arrest of all or any members thereof. So for short, nagre-refer ka. So the government caught you in the possession of dangerous drugs. So sabihin mo, Sir, under 9165, immune po ako kasi I have information about where the drugs are cultivated or manufactured. So basically, you will not be held into prison. So yun po ang lusot nito. Number 3, who willingly testify against such person. Dapat nag-testify ka. Tapos may mga conditions tayo which must concur in order for the person to enjoy immunity from prosecution. Dapat yung information na ibibigay niya o yung testimony is very necessary po for the conviction of the persons described above. Sino ba yung described above? Yung nagmamanufacture, yung nag-i-import under element number 2. Number Letter B, such information and testimony are not yet in the possession of the state. Ibig sabihin, wala pa pong, pag dalawa na kayo, duplication na yan. So yung pangalawa, hindi na siya ma-immune ng prosecution. So dapat wala pang information about it that is in the possession of the state. Letter C, such information and testimony can be corroborated on its material points. Now, element number 4, the informant or witness has not been previously convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude, except when there is no other direct evidence available for the state other than the information and testimony of said informant or witness. So, yun ang ibig sabihin dito. Pag nakapag-commit ka na ng crimes against moral turpitude, for example, murder, homicide, generally you are not allowed to be immune from prosecution. Ibig sabihin, pwede ka ma-prosecute. Pero kahit may exception dyan, kahit nakapag-commit ka ng krimen against moral turpitude, pero talagang yung testimony mo is very important, yan lang ang natitirang alas ng government para ma-convict yung isang tao. Even though you are convicted of crime against moral turpitude, pwede pa din po, lusot. Okay. So, yun pa ang exception. Number 5, the informant or witness shall strictly and faithfully comply without delay any condition or undertaking reduced into writing lawfully imposed by the state as further consideration for the grant of immunity from prosecution and punishment. Okay? So, dapat magko-comply ka ngayon. Dapat pag affidavit yung requirement, dapat you have to comply as soon as possible. Okay? Next, kailan ma-terminate yung grant of immunity? Immunity of prosecution. The immunity granted to the informant or witness shall not attach should it turn out subsequently that the information or the testimony is false. Pag mali naman yung testimony mo, kahit alam mong false yan, still nag-testify ka para ka lang ma-immune, nako, yung immunity mo ma-terminate yan. Number 2, in case an informant or witness under this act fails or refuses to testify without justifiable reason or when lawfully obliged to do so, or should he or she violate any condition accompanying such immunity as provided above. So, ma-terminate yun. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng chain of custody, mga kadete? Sa board examination, magtatanong yan. Pag chain of custody, ito po yung proseso sa pagpasa ng isang ebidensya from one person to the other. The movement thereof that is documented. The movement from one person to the other. Yan po, chain of custody. The purpose of chain of custody is to maintain the integrity of the evidence. Kasi po, pag walang integrity yung evidence, hindi mo na-maintain ang chain of custody, nako, that evidence will be considered as inadmissible. So, dapat na-maintain yung chain of custody. Next, procedures po natin. Under 10640, ito po yung amendment. Ang sabi dito, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or the PDEA shall take charge and have custody of all dangerous drugs, plant sources of dangerous drugs or controlled precursors and essential chemicals, as well as instruments, paraphernalia, and or laboratory equipment confiscated, seized, and or surrendered for proper disposition in the following manner. Sino ba yung may control dapat? PDEA, mga choy. Lahat. Apprehending team of initial custody shall conduct a physical inventory of the seized items and photograph the same in the presence of the accused. Pag pulis ka ha, ito ang dapat tandaan mo. Dapat na photograph yan in the presence of the accused or the persons from whom such items were confiscated or seized. Letter B, dapat na-photograph yan in the presence of his representative or sa kanyang lawyer, yung counsel. With an elected public official, yung kagawad or konsihal, pwede din po yung kapitan sa barangay, representative of the National Prosecution Office. Pag wala naman yung prosecutor or walang representative sa NPS, pwede lang yung media. Okay? A media person who shall be required to sign the copies of the inventory and be given a copy thereof. Place of conducting inventory and photograph. Saan ba mangyayari ang inventory? Ano ba yung inventory? Kung ilang kilo ng shabu ang nakuha, ilang sachet ng marijuana. Saan ginagawa yan? Sa place where the search warrant is served. Or number 2, sa nearest police station, pwede din po sa nearest office of the apprehending officer, whichever is applicable in case of warrantless seizure. Okay? So, dito mga kadete, tandaan po sa lahat po na nag-confiscate or nag-seize ng drugs, it has to be submitted within 24 hours to the PDEA Forensic Laboratory for qualitative and quantitative examination. Ano ba yung qualitative? Kung ano yung droga. Class A ba yan? Class B ba? Quantity, ilang gramo, ilang kilo. Number 2, certification of the forensic laboratory examination results shall be issued immediately upon the receipt of the subject items. Dapat yung resulta ng forensic laboratory examination dapat ibigay agad-agad. Then, partial laboratory examination report allowed to be issued provisionally when the volume of the items do not allow the completion of testing within the time frame, stating the quantities of dangerous drugs still to be examined by the forensic laboratory, provided a final certification shall be issued. So, mangyayari ito pag bulto-bulto na yung drugs. For example, marami po. Let's say yung laboratory natin overwhelmed na. Tapos marami ang dapat i-examine. And the examination thereof, the result thereof cannot be handed immediately to the agency. So ang gagawin po, ang unang i-issue is yung partial laboratory examination report. Okay. Pero at the end of the day, pagkatapos ng examination, dapat yung final certification po yung ibibigay. Ano bang pagkakaiba sa dalawa? Partial, ibig sabihin hindi pa tapos. Partial pa lang. Yung final, tapos na po yung the whole examination. Next, number 3, filing of criminal cases in court. Okay? So, sunod po, after the filing of the case po, ang korte po within 72 hours, ang gagawin niya po is to conduct ocular inspection. Dapat within 72 hours yan, 3 days. Within 3 days, dapat mag-conduct siya ng ocular inspection sa confiscated, seized, or surrendered drug items. Now, pagkatapos ng 72 hours after ocular inspection has already been done, ang PDEA naman, bibigyan siya uli ng 24 hours in order po to proceed with the destruction or burning of the items. Dapat po ang burning or destruction shall be in the presence of the following. Una, yung accused o representative niya, pag wala yung accused, pag wala naman yung representative, tsaka yung accused, pwede yung lawyer niya. Tapos, representative from the following, from the media, Department of Justice, civil society groups. Okay, sa mga society natin, may mga NGOs po tayo or non-government organizations. Pwede po yan as a requirement. Then, any elected public official. Pwedeng barangay, pwedeng sa municipal or city, so on and so forth. Pagkatapos naman ng destruction, may mga pagkakataon po that the drug should be taken with a sample. Hindi naman lahat i-destroy natin kasi kailanganin natin yung sample para sa trial natin. Alright? So for example, pag 10 kilos of methamphetamine hydrochloride, you do not destroy all. But probably you will retain a gram or a considerable amount para po sa trial. So pagkatapos ng destruction, ang gagawin ng Dangerous Drugs Board, mag-i-issue siya ng sworn certification. Sworn certification relative to the destruction or burning of the item. Okay? So again, may representative sample yan or may sample from the items being destroyed. Yung sample naman, after the promulgation of the promulgation and judgment of the criminal case, dyan na po yung PDEA, i-destroy niya yung sample na nakukuha sa original na drugs, i-destroy niya within 24 hours from receipt thereof. Okay? So, yun po ang proseso under 10640 na nag-amend sa Republic Act 9165. Now, para mas maintindihan po mga kadete, may ginawa akong graphics para mas maintindihan po natin kung ano ba yung procedure. Again, lahat ng seized na drug items, saan po ang kustodiya dyan? Sa PDEA po or sa Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency. Pag may na-seize po na drugs, i-turn over sa PDEA, i-submit po siya within 24 hours. 24 hours from the time it was confiscated or seized. Automatically, ang PDEA will conduct a laboratory examination. Dalawa yung resulta, pwedeng partial, pwedeng final. Partial, pag medyo marami-rami yung laboratory examination. Pero kung konti naman, diretso ka na, mag-submit ka na ngayon ng final certification about the result po, kung ano yung droga. Pag andyan na yung certification, punta ka ngayon ng korte, mag-file ka ng kaso, case filing na. Pagkatapos ng case filing, pagkarating doon sa korte, ang korte naman, ang gagawin niya within 72 hours, mag-conduct siya ng ocular inspection sa mga drogas. Pagkatapos ng 72 hours again, i-destroy yung drugs, i-burn yung mga drugs. Okay? Pero, hindi lahat ay susunogin. May mga sample na kukuhain po. So, yung sample naman should be retained. Pero the rest will be burned in the presence of people, representatives. Okay? As mentioned a while ago. Pagkatapos na na-destroy na yung drugs, ano ang gagawin? Ang Dangerous Drugs Board or DDB, mag-i-issue siya ngayon ng sworn certification. A certification na nagsasabi na na-destroy na yung drugs. Tapos, after promulgation of judgment, promulgation of the criminal case rather, or may judgment na, within 24 hours, ang gagawin ngayon ng PDEA, yung sample kunin niya uli at yung sample naman ang i-destroy. Okay? Yun po ang proseso natin mga kadete ha. Kindly remember it. Now, lastly, plea bargaining. Now, do not be confused, cadets ha. Sa Section 23 kasi ng Republic Act 9165, nagsasabi dyan na lahat ng mga tao that has been charged in violating Republic Act 9165 are not allowed to avail on the plea bargaining. Yun po ang sabi sa Section 23 ng 9165. Pero, again, cadets, listen up, ang section po na yan, ang batas po na yan is already considered to be unconstitutional. Na-revise na po yan kasi unconstitutional po. So ngayon, ang Supreme Court nag-issue siya ng Circular Number 2018. This happened in May 4, 2018, which enjoined the courts to comply with Administrative Memo Number 180316, Adoption of the Plea Bargaining Framework in Drug Cases. Ano bang ibig sabihin? Ibig sabihin po, even if the case involves suspects into drugs, kahit violation yan ng 9165, still the suspect or the accused can still avail on the plea bargaining. Okay? Sir, sabi kasi sa Section 23, dapat walang plea bargaining. O nga, sabi dyan sa Section 23. Pero, again, it was already declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. So, meaning, yung Section 23, overwritten na po yan. Or, obsolete na po, or nawala na po. Nullify na po siya, void na po. Hindi na po natin pinafollow yung Section 23. Kasi po, sabi ng Korte, unconstitutional yan. Dapat, lahat po ng suspectado or accused of drugs can avail on the plea bargaining. I hope I was able to contribute mga kadete on amplifying your knowledge in Criminal Law Book 2. I hope nakatulong po ako sa pag-discuss ng Title 4 and Title 5 mga kadets. So we will continue the discussion on Title 6 na po tayo. Probably we can include 6 and 7 in one episode. Maraming salamat po sa pagtangkilik ng Big Queen of Platform. Maligayang araw po sa lahat. God bless and have a nice day.